as they are. They're full of the most mysterious sort of talk about, for example, you didn't choose me, I chose you, and all that you want is going to be delivered, will be delivered by the Father. What does that mean? But what I want to talk about is that opening sort of verse where it says, love one another as I have loved you. So I guess if we're going to make sense of that remark, we need to have some understanding about what does Jesus mean by love. What he's saying to me, I want you to love in the way I love. You love each other like I have loved you. So whatever this love is, at first we know that he's establishing the sort of benchmark, the quality or level of love by saying, watch me. If you want to know what love is, look at me. So, I've been wandering through a few of the sort of remarks that people make in contemporary culture and elsewhere about the nature of love. And when you actually come to it, it is quite difficult to come to a universal definition of love. Some people I've talked to about this said, love is essentially ineffable. Like religious experiences, the three great characteristics of a religious experience is that you sense that you have been changed. Two, it's got this epistemological dimension. A religious experience gives you some sense that you have learnt something. It's not you just haven't changed, but you've actually, some knowledge has become available to you, a deep knowledge. And the third characteristic of a religious experience is that it is ineffable. You will not ultimately be able to explain it to anyone. Even the person you have lived with all your life, if you try to get to the essence of what that is that has happened to you, you'll get a certain way, and then you'll become sort of exhausted and unable to really account for it. And a lot of people say that that's what love is. You cannot reduce love to words. In fact, the more words you use, the further and you get away from it, and the more elusive the subject is. I can remember a very wise person who taught me a lot about music in the past said that the greatest statement of love is the prelude to Tristan und Isolde by Wagner, which is, he said, that is the most beautiful statement of love itself, which is remarkable for a number of reasons. One, because Wagner was such a vile character, one of those ugly people that you could imagine, and yet he's capable of writing these things of extraordinary beauty. I don't hear love in the prelude to Tristan and Isolde, but I can see what people feel and see there. Well, on the back of our toilet at home, I'm sorry to lower the tone here, but this is what is in the back of our toilet. There is a reproduction of a painting by Leonardo, and I'm going to show you. This is. I'm sorry to be so undigital in my activities, but it's this painting here, and one of the details is Mary and her cousin with the baby Jesus, and that is said to be one of the most remarkable representations of love. This is a mother looking down at the child, and it's a quite bewitching piece. So you had the great minds, the great artists of our culture striving to give us a feeling as to what love is. Now you may remember last week, or was it the week before, when Andrew had the job of preaching on Trinity Sunday. And I know that it caused him sleepless nights trying to gather together the complexities of that doctrine. But one of the things that he said is that we understand that God is essentially one. But we also believe that there are three divine presences bound together in the infinite depth and wonder of love, which makes the Trinity. And in fact, the Trinity only makes sense as being a community of love. Because if we say that God is love, what does that mean? You can't have a single entity that is love, because it makes no sense. Just to say, oh, he is love, and there's no one else but him, is meaningless, because love works its way out in action. So, the argument goes, if it is of the very nature of God that God is loving, in fact that is the defining characteristic of love, God is love, then it follows that God cannot be alone. And so you can develop this argument, a type of an apologetic argument that helps you begin to build up the teaching about the Trinity. So, I went to contemporary culture, and in fact I've been doing this for some time. I write down the lyrics of popular songs that I hear, you know, and you wouldn't be surprised to hear that most of them are about love. And this is what these songs are saying. I've discerned about four characteristics. One of the characteristics is that people say that love is what makes life essentially beautiful. I'm in love, therefore life is wonderful. So that's the first characteristic. Love is probably the most prized ingredient or experience that you can have in this world. I'm in love, everything is fine, I am happy. And while I'm in love, I feel fulfilled, I feel rich. So that's an extraordinary burden to put on this concept of love. But another characteristic of contemporary songs is that love is painful. Love hurts. Some people in songs say, I'm not going to fall in love. Because if I fall in love, there is always this possibility that it might dissolve. And you see the agony of people who have fallen in love, and then they deal with, for many reasons, the collapse of that relationship. And you can say that in fact, although love does provide this sense of joy and meaning and so forth, it can also be extraordinarily painful. Also, I notice that a lot of songs talk about love as being ephemeral. It comes in and out. It's elusive. You can't capture it. You can't demand that it control itself. You can't make it stay. So it's an elusive, strange sort of thing. And behind all of those understandings that you'll hear in songs. So next time you hear a song on the radio, listen to the actual words and try and discover for yourself what it is saying. So what all of those definitions have is this sort of understanding that love is a type of entity. It's a thing, like a fog, like a sort of presence, like an infilling, but it's separate from us. And we look at love, here comes love. Love is on me, love has left me. I'm looking for love. So all of those definitions, all of those understandings view love as a thing external to ourselves. Now what is interesting about that is that that is not what you will find in the Bible as a definition of love. This idea that love is a thing. The Bible does not treat love in that way. The Bible treats love as a type of behaviour. Look at the classic definition in 1 Corinthians 13. Wonderful definition. There you will find the definition. And look how different it is from what contemporary culture is saying about love. Paul talks about love as being patient. Love is kind. Love is not obsessed about itself. Love doesn't remember stuff that's happened in the past. Love keeps no score of past ills. In other words, you'll never hear love saying, I remember in October last year you said. That's keeping a score of past ills. Love doesn't do that. Love endures all things. Love never gives up. Love never loses hope. Love lasts forever. So all of these things in a way have to do with how you conduct yourself in the world. So if this is the definition of love, then we need to see, and we want to see that acting out. You look at the life of Jesus and you see someone who is acting out this sort of loving way of being patient and being kind. So, there's a number of conclusions and implications that you can draw from this. If you are wandering around saying, I need love, I want love, if you're praying for love, I want love, in a way, you're asking something, which is a fair thing to ask. If that's, we open our hearts to God in all sorts of ways. But ponder this thought that you may be asking for something that you don't fully understand. In fact, if you were to say, follow through the implications of the 1 Corinthians 13 definition of love, you would have to say, if you're praying about love, then in a sense you're praying about yourself. You're praying, if you want love, then what you want is to be able to live with the characteristics that are spelled out in that section. To be a patient person, a kind person. These are really simple categories, but very demanding. And in some senses, I thought that I was going to start my sermon when I was thinking earlier in the week. I thought that verse, love each other as I have loved you, I thought maybe that's the hardest thing Jesus has ever said. Is there anyone in this room that can say, I have loved like Jesus has loved? None of us can say that. But what we can say, if we understand what that actually means, we have a way of ordering our own behaviour. And I think, when I was working as a minister and had some counselling, quite a lot of counselling in one of my places, I can remember a couple of young couples came to see me. And they said, we're in trouble. And I said, what's going on? What's going on? And finally, the fella said, we don't love each other. And I thought to myself, will you go away and come back when you have a real problem? So and I said, what do you mean by that? And you see them drifting around in this sort of fog of contemporary expectation, thinking that somehow love is this sort of mystical, wondrous thing that will float in and transform everything. And in a way, It removes them from the obligation of actually getting to work and doing something about it. And so I remember stepping through with a group of a couple and saying, listen to this as a definition. Love is patient. Love is kind. I said, are you patient with her, are you? And are you patient? Are you kind? I said, can we talk about that? And it had the most transforming effect. And that sort of feeling that somehow they had been robbed of this entity that was going to transform everything. That weight is gone, and they've now got a thing to do, which is to simply settle down to those basic characteristics. My experience is that if you set yourself that task, you actually will find love. You'll find it in yourself. But that sort of patience and kindness and gentleness, that long-suffering sort of spirit, has this amazing effect on others. And others, you will find love beginning to flourish in the person that you are talking about. So, the other thing that I think is interesting about this understanding about the nature of love is that it means that we Christians really have an important contribution to make to our society. I mean, as our society moves further and further away from the sort of philosophical underpinnings that have come from Christianity, and we move into this highly individualistic, sort of postmodernist world where it's very difficult to find any point of agreement with other people about what's right and wrong. So you can see that manifesting itself when politicians talk about community expectations. You won't find a politician today saying, that is wrong. Because they are fearful that to say that puts you at odds with a sort of postmodernist environment that says there are no meta stories about what's right and wrong. It might be right for you, but it's not right for him, it's not necessarily right for me. Now, in fact, that is not true. And we as Christians, I think, need to find a way of being able to explain what these principles and values are that underlie the things that we believe. And I think Christianity's got a lot to say about many things within our society, but it means that we have got to find the true essence of what we're talking about. So, there it is. It's a beautiful verse. It's a verse that you should say to yourself over and over. Love one another as I have loved you. And try and see perhaps how that means you will need to change in the way you relate to others. Amen.